Captain James Mitchell crawled through the narrow gap between two twisted pieces of alien hull plating, his flashlight cutting through the darkness of the salvage field. The metal groaned around him as he squeezed deeper into what had once been a Vorthak cruiser. 3 days of searching through this particular wreck had yielded nothing but scrap copper and a few broken power cells. "James, you need to see this," crackled Sarah Thompson's voice through his comm unit. She sounded excited, which was unusual for his chief engineer. Sarah rarely got excited about anything except a particularly clean weld or a functioning piece of alien tech. He backed out of the wreckage and looked across the endless field of broken starships that surrounded Haven Station. The human outpost sat like a metal tumor on the edge of Eclipse Galaxy, built from the technological garbage that the galaxy's ruling species dumped here monthly. For 30 years, humans had lived on the scraps of greater civilizations. James climbed onto his salvage runner and fired up the engines. The small ship lifted off from the debris field and headed toward Sarah's location in Sector 7, where a massive Vorthak cargo hauler had dumped its latest load that morning. As he flew over the twisted landscape of metal and ceramic, James thought about how they had ended up here. The humans had arrived in Eclipse Galaxy as refugees. Their home system had been destroyed in a war between two alien empires who had never bothered to notice that humans lived there. The Vorthak Empire, with their crystal cities and perfect technology, had allowed the survivors to settle on this worthless moon. The Nethys Collective, floating in their gas giant homes, had agreed. Both species saw humans as useful janitors, good for cleaning up messes but nothing more. James landed his ship near a group of his crew members who were standing around something large and dark. Tom Bradley, a former Navy mechanic with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails, was shaking his head in disbelief. Lisa Adams, their systems specialist, was running her scanner over the object and frowning at the readings. "What did you find?" James asked as he climbed down from his ship. Sarah pointed at the massive structure rising from the scrap pile like a black mountain. It was easily 3 kilometers long and half as wide. The hull was scorched and torn in places, but the basic shape was unmistakable. James had seen pictures of ships like this in the old military databases. "It is a Titan-class dreadnought," Sarah said quietly. "I thought they were all destroyed in the old wars." James walked slowly around the enormous hull, his mind racing. Titan-class ships were legends. They had been built by some forgotten civilization thousands of years ago. Each one could destroy entire fleets. The great powers of the galaxy told stories about them, but everyone believed they were all gone. "The damage is extensive," Tom said, running his hand along a section where the armor had been melted away. "But look at this." He pointed to the ship's core structure, which appeared intact despite the external damage. "The main hull is solid. The engine mounts are still there. Even some of the weapon housing survived." Lisa looked up from her scanner with wide eyes. "James, this thing is huge. If we could somehow get it working again." "We are scavengers," James reminded her. "We fix broken equipment and sell spare parts. We do not build warships." But even as he said it, James found himself studying the massive vessel with new eyes. The Vorthak had probably found it somewhere in their territory and decided it was too damaged to bother with. To them, it was just more garbage to dump on the humans. They had no idea what they had thrown away. "How much of it do you think actually works?" James asked. Sarah climbed up onto the hull and disappeared through a tear in the armor plating. Her voice echoed from inside the ship. "The main computer core is dead, but the backup systems might be salvageable. The reactor chamber looks intact, though we would need to rebuild the entire power distribution network." She emerged from the opening covered in dust. "James, this ship was built to last forever. Even after all this damage, the basic structure is sound." Tom was examining one of the weapon mounts. "These energy projectors are like nothing I have ever seen. The focusing crystals are cracked, but the basic design is incredible. If we could figure out how they work." "We would need parts," James said. "Lots of parts. More than we have ever tried to assemble before." "We have been collecting alien technology for 30 years, Sarah pointed out. "Every piece of Vorthak equipment, every Nethys biocomponent we have ever salvaged. What if we could make them work together?" Lisa laughed. "The aliens all say their technologies are incompatible. That is why they throw so much away instead of recycling it." "The aliens think in straight lines," Tom said. "Each species builds everything one way and cannot imagine doing it differently. But humans adapt. We improvise. We make things work even when they should not." James stood in the shadow of the ancient dreadnought and felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope. For 3 decades, Humanity had survived on the charity of species that barely considered them intelligent. They lived in the garbage dumps of the galaxy, fixing broken equipment and staying invisible. But this ship could change everything. If we tried to repair this, James said slowly, we would need help. More people than just our crew. Sarah nodded. There are human settlements scattered all over the outer rim. Former soldiers working in the mines. Scientists running water recycling plants. Engineers maintaining asteroid platforms. If they knew what we had found, they would come, Tom finished. They would all come. James made his decision. Then let us call them. 3 months had passed since Captain James Mitchell discovered the Titan in the scrap fields. Haven Station had transformed from a quiet salvage outpost into a buzzing hive of activity. Ships arrived daily from human settlements across the outer rim, carrying volunteers who had abandoned their old lives to join something impossible. Sarah Thompson stood inside the massive hull of the ancient dreadnought, watching sparks fly as welders connected alien power cables in ways their original designers never intended. The ship's main hangar had become a workshop where humans performed miracles with garbage. This should not work, muttered David Wilson, a former weapons engineer who had spent the last 15 years maintaining mining equipment on a dead asteroid. He held up a Vorthak energy crystal that pulsed with blue light. These crystals are designed to work only with Vorthak focusing arrays. But look at this. David connected the crystal to a Nethys bioneural processor using human copper wire and basic electrical components. The hybrid system hummed to life, creating an energy pattern that neither alien species had ever achieved. The bioprocessor learned to control the crystal's output while the crystal provided power the organic component could never generate alone. The Vorthak build everything for maximum efficiency, Sarah explained to a group of new arrivals. Every component has one purpose and works in only one way. The Nethys grow their technology like living creatures. Each piece adapts to its environment but cannot be modified. But humans see possibilities where they see limitations. Michael Roberts, a refugee from the inner colonies, was installing armor plating using techniques that would horrify both alien species. He welded Vorthak crystal matrices directly onto Nethys biometal, creating a defensive system that combined rigid energy shielding with adaptive organic repair capabilities. The aliens cannot think outside their own design rules, Michael said as he worked. A Vorthak engineer would never contaminate their perfect crystal technology with organic components. A Nethys bioengineer would never force their living metal to bond with artificial crystals. But we do not care about their rules. In the ship's engine room, Tom Bradley supervised the installation of a power system that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Human mechanical components connected 3 different alien reactor designs, creating a hybrid engine that drew power from multiple sources simultaneously. The beautiful thing about being scavengers, Tom explained to his team, is that we never had the luxury of using only one type of technology. We learned to make everything work together because we had no choice. Jenny Clark monitored communications from a makeshift control center built inside the ship's original bridge. Messages arrived constantly from human settlements throughout the galaxy. Former soldiers wanted to join the project. Scientists offered their expertise. Engineers abandoned comfortable jobs to work on something that mattered. Captain Mitchell, Jenny called out as James climbed through the bridge access hatch. We just received a message from the Kepler mining station. They are sending a team of 50 volunteers, including 2 former Navy officers who served on destroyers. James nodded, looking around the bridge where his people worked to restore systems that had been dead for centuries. Every control panel was different. Vorthak touchscreens sat next to Nethys biointerfaces, all connected by human-built control systems that translated between incompatible computer languages. The alien species build their technology like they build their societies, observed Peter Hayes, a scientist who had given up his research position to join the project. Everything must fit into predetermined categories. Each component has its place in the hierarchy and cannot be changed. But human societies adapt. We absorb ideas from everywhere and make them our own. Rachel Green, a former military officer who had been maintaining security systems on a remote outpost, was installing weapon control systems throughout the ship. She connected targeting computers from 6 different alien civilizations, creating a fire control network that could adapt to any combat situation. Military doctrine teaches that you fight with the weapons you have, Rachel said as she calibrated the hybrid systems. But humans have always been good at turning everyday objects into weapons. Now we are turning alien garbage into the most advanced weapons array in the galaxy. The work continued 24 hours a day. In the ship's medical bay, Human doctors figured out how to operate alien medical equipment by combining the precision of Vorthak surgical tools with the healing capabilities of Nethys bioregeneration systems. In the communications center, human technicians built translation protocols that allowed dozens of incompatible alien computer systems to share information. Lisa Adams had become the ship's unofficial systems coordinator, keeping track of the thousands of modifications being made throughout the vessel. Her office was filled with blueprints that showed how human ingenuity was creating something entirely new from the discarded pieces of alien civilizations. The Vorthak think we are primitive because we use simple tools, Lisa explained to a visiting engineer. The Nethys think we are limited because we rely on mechanical systems instead of biological ones. Neither species understands that our simplicity is our strength. We can connect anything to anything because we do not have preconceived ideas about how things should work. As James walked through the ship's corridors, he saw humans accomplishing the impossible every day. In one section, a team was installing life support systems that combined Vorthak atmospheric processes with Nethys biological filters and human mechanical pumps. In another area, engineers were building a navigation system that used quantum computers, organic neural networks, and simple mechanical gyroscopes all working together. The aliens had given humanity their garbage for 30 years, never imagining that humans would find ways to make it all work together. Each discarded component had been studied, understood, and improved upon. Now those improvements were coming together to create something the galaxy had never seen before. How much longer until we can test the main systems? James asked Sarah as they met in the ship's central corridor. Sarah smiled, her face streaked with grease and her hands dirty from working with alien technology. 2 more weeks for basic systems. Another month for full operational capability. She paused, looking around at the bustling activity. James, when this ship is finished, it will not be Vorthak or Nethys or any other alien design. It will be purely human. Built from their scraps, but designed by our ingenuity. James nodded, feeling pride in what his people had accomplished. Soon, the galaxy would learn what humans could build when they had something worth fighting for. The first warning came at dawn when Jenny Clark's sensors detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of the Haven system. She stared at her displays in the makeshift communications center, watching as 12 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Captain Mitchell to the bridge immediately, she announced over the ship's internal communications. We have visitors. James climbed through the access hatch into the Titan's partially completed bridge, where his crew was frantically checking their jury-rigged systems. Through the main viewport, he could see the crystalline hulls of Vorthak destroyers gleaming in the pale sunlight. Each ship was a work of art, their surfaces perfectly smooth and their weapons arrays arranged in geometrical patterns that spoke of absolute precision. They found us, Tom Bradley said grimly, checking the status of their hybrid engine systems. Engines are at 60% power, but I would not recommend any sudden movements. Admiral Zentha's voice crackled across all communication frequencies, cold and mechanical like all Vorthak speech. Human salvage vessel, you will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. You are in possession of military technology that exceeds your species authorization level. James activated the communication system, his voice steady despite the fear growing in his chest. This is Captain Mitchell of the Starship Titan. We salvaged this vessel from your own garbage dump. By galactic salvage law, it belongs to us. Galactic salvage law does not apply to military vessels, Admiral Zenth replied. Your species lacks the intelligence and authority to operate weapons of this magnitude. You will surrender the vessel immediately or face the consequences. Sarah appeared beside James, her face pale but determined. Weapons systems are at 40%. Shields are barely functional. If they attack, we will not last 5 minutes. Before James could respond, space shimmered again near the gas giant at the system's edge. 8 new ships emerged from hyperspace, but these vessels looked nothing like the geometric perfection of Vorthak technology. The Nethys bioships appeared grown rather than built, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that shifted and changed like living skin. Fleetmind Golotha's telepathic voice pressed into the consciousness of everyone on both fleets, a sensation like ice water flowing through their thoughts. The ancient vessel contains technology that predates both our civilizations. The collective claims priority based on our biological connection to the ship's original creators. Admiral Zentha's formation shifted to face the new arrivals. The Vorthak Empire discovered this vessel in our territory. Your claim has no legal foundation. Legal concepts are meaningless, Golotha's mental voice replied. The ship's bioneural components recognize our genetic markers. It belongs to us by right of inheritance. James watched in growing horror as both alien fleets maneuvered for position around Haven Station. The Vorthak destroyers maintained their perfect formations while the Nethys bioships moved in fluid, organic patterns that resembled a hunting pack. Neither fleet seemed particularly concerned about the human outpost caught between them. They are going to fight over us, Lisa Adams said from her sensor station. And they do not care if we survive the battle. Peter Hayes, monitoring the alien communications, looked up from his translation computer. Both fleets are claiming the ship belongs to them. Neither one acknowledges our right to keep what we found. David Wilson was frantically checking weapon systems throughout the ship. Most of our guns are not even connected yet. The targeting computers are still learning how to talk to each other. We have maybe 6 hours before someone starts shooting. James made a decision that would change the course of human history. All hands, prepare for emergency launch. We are leaving the station. Captain, Sarah protested, the ship is not ready. Half our systems are untested. The power distribution network could fail at any moment. If we stay docked, we are sitting targets, James replied. At least in space we have a chance to maneuver. The Titan's hybrid engines ignited with a roar that sent energy cascades through both alien fleet sensor arrays. The massive ship pulled away from Haven Station like a wounded giant, her mismatched engines creating power signatures that confused every computer trying to analyze them. Admiral Zentha's voice carried a note of surprise. Impossible. Their power output exceeds their ship's theoretical maximum capacity. Fleetmind Gorlotha's mental communication rippled with confusion. Their energy patterns make no sense. How are they combining incompatible power sources? Rachel Green, now serving as the ship's tactical officer, reported from her hastily installed command station. Both fleets are moving to intercept us. The Vorthak are maintaining standard attack formations. The Nethys ships are spreading out to surround us. Michael Roberts, monitoring the ship's structural integrity, shook his head in amazement. The alien hull plating is holding together despite the stress. Whoever built this ship originally knew what they were doing. James stood in the center of the incomplete bridge, surrounded by control panels that had been salvaged from a dozen different alien civilizations. Nothing looked like it belonged together, but somehow it all worked. Like humanity itself, the ship was greater than the sum of its parts. They still think we are just scavengers, James said, watching as the two alien fleets closed in on their position. They see this ship as a prize to be claimed, not a threat to be respected. Tom's voice came through the communications system from the engine room. Captain, I can give you full power for maybe 30 minutes before something important explodes. After that, we will be running on backup systems and prayer. 30 minutes should be enough, James replied. Sarah, are the weapons ready? They are ready, Sarah answered, though she sounded doubtful. I just hope they work the way we think they do. James looked at his crew of former refugees and scavengers, people who had spent their entire lives being ignored by the greater powers of the galaxy. Today, that would change forever. Let us show them what humans do with their garbage, he said. The first Vorthak destroyer moved toward the Titan with mechanical precision, its crystalline hull gleaming as weapon ports opened in perfect geometric patterns. Admiral Zenth had chosen the VCS perfection to disable the human vessel, confident that surgical strikes would end this embarrassment quickly. Target their engine systems, Admiral Zenth commanded. Minimal damage. We need the ship intact for study. Captain James Mitchell watched the destroyer approach on his makeshift tactical display. The Vorthak ship was beautiful in its deadly efficiency, every line designed for maximum performance. It was everything the cobbled-together Titan was not. Sarah, give me everything the weapons can handle, James ordered. Sarah Thompson's hands moved across control panels salvaged from 6 different alien species. Firing hybrid array now. The Titan's weapon systems erupted in chaos. Vorthak energy beams fired alongside Nethys bioplasma cannons while human kinetic rounds streaked between them. The different weapon types created interference patterns that no computer could calculate or predict. What should have been a coordinated barrage became something far more dangerous. The Perfection shields had been designed to deflect coherent energy attacks using mathematical precision. They could handle any known weapon system by analyzing its pattern and adapting accordingly. But the Titan's weapons had no pattern. The hybrid array fired Vorthak crystals powered by Nethys bioenergy, guided by human targeting computers that made decisions based on instinct rather than calculation. The destroyer's shields flickered and failed as energy cascades they had never been programmed to handle tore through their matrix. The Perfection staggered under the assault, its perfect hull cracked by weapons that should not have existed. Impossible, Admiral Zenth transmitted. Their weapon signatures make no sense. How are they combining incompatible energy types? David Wilson laughed from his gunnery station as he watched the destroyer retreat. That is because we built them from your garbage. Every piece you threw away, we found a use for. The Nethys bioships attacked next, moving in a fluid swarm that resembled hunting predators. Their organic hulls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns as they closed in from multiple directions. Fleetmind Gorloth had chosen a classic encirclement tactic that had served the collective for thousands of years. Rachel Green, commanding the Titan's defensive systems, watched the bioships approach on her sensors. The Nethys moved like living creatures because their ships essentially were living creatures. They flowed through space with organic grace, adapting their tactics in real time as the situation changed. They are trying to surround us, Rachel reported. Standard Nethys hunting pattern. Then we will not give them a standard response, James replied. Tom, emergency power to maneuvering thrusters. Tom Bradley's voice crackled through the communication system from the engine room. Captain, the structural stress will be enormous. This ship was not designed for combat maneuvers. It was not designed for anything we are doing today, James answered. Do it anyway. The Titan began to spin on its axis, using its massive bulk as a weapon. The 3-kilometer-long dreadnought rotated like a giant club, its hybrid engines creating gravitational distortions that confused the bioship's organic sensors. As it spun, the ship's weapons continued firing in all directions, creating a sphere of deadly energy around its hull. The Nethys had never encountered tactics like this. Their bioships were designed to work together like a pack, using coordination and teamwork to overwhelm larger opponents. But the Titan's chaotic spinning motion made coordinated attacks impossible. Every time a bioship moved into position, the massive human vessel had rotated to face a different direction. Fleetmind Gorloth's telepathic voice rippled with confusion across the battlefield. This cannot be. They fight without pattern, without logic. How do we counter tactics that make no sense? Lisa Adams, monitoring the battle from her sensor station, watched as one of the bioships tried to match the Titan's rotation. The organic vessel twisted itself into an impossible configuration, its living hull stretching beyond its limits. They are hurting themselves trying to adapt to our movements. Michael Roberts, tracking structural damage throughout the ship, shook his head in amazement. The alien hull plating is holding together somehow. We are pulling forces that should tear the ship apart, but it is staying in one piece. The battle continued for 20 minutes, with both alien fleets unable to land effective hits on the spinning dreadnought. The Vorthak tried mathematical precision against an opponent who ignored mathematics. The Nethys attempted organic adaptation against tactics that had no biological equivalent. Then something unexpected happened. The two alien fleets began firing on each other. Admiral Zenth's perfect formation broke apart as Vorthak energy beams struck Nethys bioships that had moved too close. Fleetmind Gorloth's pack scattered when bioplasma bursts intended for the Titan hit Vorthak destroyers instead. In the chaos of the three-way battle, the aliens began treating each other as threats. They are fighting each other now, Peter Hayes reported from his monitoring station. Both fleets are taking casualties from friendly fire. James ordered the Titan to stop spinning and take advantage of the confusion. Sarah, target the damaged ships. Show them what happens when they underestimate humans. The hybrid weapon array focused on the wounded vessels with devastating effect. Vorthak destroyers that had been weakened by bioplasma strikes found themselves unable to defend against the Titan's chaotic energy patterns. Nethys bioships damaged by crystal beams could not adapt quickly enough to counter human kinetic rounds. One by one, alien ships began retreating from the battle. The Perfection limped away with its crystalline hull cracked and smoking. 3 Nethys bioships withdrew with their organic hulls flickering weakly as they struggled to repair themselves. Admiral Zenth's final transmission carried a note of something the Vorthak rarely experienced: uncertainty. This engagement is concluded. The human vessel will be monitored. Fleetmind Gorloth's telepathic farewell rippled with confusion and what might have been respect. Your species defies prediction. We will consider new approaches. As the alien fleets disappeared into hyperspace, James looked around his damaged bridge at the crew of scavengers who had just defeated 2 galactic superpowers. They had won not through superior technology or greater numbers, but through the uniquely human ability to make the impossible work. Status report, James requested. Tom's voice came through the communications system, tired but triumphant. Engines are holding together with spare parts and stubbornness. We can make it home. The battle was over, but James knew their real journey was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Haven Station, Captain James Mitchell stood on the fully operational bridge of the Titan and watched through the main viewport as humanity's second dreadnought took shape in the orbital shipyards. The Defiance was already half completed, her hybrid hull gleaming with a mixture of alien technologies that had been transformed into something uniquely human. The bridge around him hummed with quiet efficiency. Gone were the exposed wires and jury-rigged connections of the early days. Every system had been refined and perfected through months of testing and improvement. The control panels still showed the eclectic mix of alien designs, but now they worked together as smoothly as if they had been built that way originally. "Captain," Jenny Clark reported from the communication station, "we have 17 new diplomatic requests this morning. The Ultrian Republic wants to discuss trade agreements. The Free Traders of Vega are offering exclusive shipping contracts. Something called the Liberation Front of Outer Colonies is requesting military assistance." Jenny's station was very different from the makeshift equipment she had used during the battle. Now she operated a communications array that could translate between 4 to 7 different alien languages simultaneously, built from components that had once been considered incompatible garbage. James nodded, still amazed at how quickly the galaxy's attitude toward humanity had changed. "Any word from our old friends?" "The Vorthak Empire has pulled back to their core systems," Peter Hayes reported from the science station. "Their fleet movements suggest they are reorganizing their entire military doctrine. The Nethys Collective sent another request for a non-aggression pact this morning." Peter's analysis station was a work of art in itself, combining Vorthak computational crystals with Nethys bioneural processors and human interface systems. It could process tactical information faster than any single species computer system in the galaxy, giving humanity an intelligence advantage that their enemies were still trying to understand. Sarah Thompson emerged from the ship's lower decks, her engineering uniform clean for once but her hands still bearing the permanent stains of someone who worked with alien technology daily. "The Defiance will be ready for trials next month. Her weapon systems are even more advanced than ours. We have learned a lot in the past 6 months." The hangar bay doors opened to admit another cargo hauler, but this one was very different from the garbage scows that used to visit Haven Station. The ship bore the markings of the Kepler Mining Consortium, and its message pod contained a diplomatic note: "Premium salvage materials, delivered with compliments and hopes for continued cooperation." David Wilson, now serving as the fleet's chief weapons officer, smiled as he reviewed the cargo manifest. High-grade Ultrian focusing crystals, Zentorian biometals, and something called quantum processing matrices from the Outer Rim republics. "They are sending us their best technology now, not their garbage." The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Word of humanity's victory had spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The story grew with each telling, but the essential facts remained the same. A small group of human scavengers had built a warship from alien garbage and used it to defeat 2 galactic superpowers in the same battle. Tom Bradley appeared on the bridge, his chief engineer's uniform decorated with service ribbons that had not existed 6 months ago. "Captain, we have completed the final modifications to the Titan's engine systems. Power output is up another 15%, and fuel efficiency has improved by 20%. The aliens keep sending us better components to work with." The irony was not lost on any of them. For 30 years, the great powers of the galaxy had dumped their technological refuse on humanity, viewing humans as useful janitors who could clean up messes without asking questions. Now those same powers were competing to give humanity their most advanced technology, hoping to earn favor with the species they had once ignored. Rachel Green entered the bridge carrying a tactical report that would have been impossible to produce 6 months earlier. "The Third Fleet is now operational with 12 vessels of various classes. The Fourth Fleet will be ready within the year. We are receiving volunteers from human settlements throughout the galaxy, including some from the inner systems." Rachel wore the uniform of humanity's first admiral, a rank that had not existed when she was maintaining security systems on a remote outpost. Now she commanded a growing fleet of ships built from the willing donations of species who had suddenly discovered the value of human friendship. Michael Roberts, who had become the fleet's chief of ship construction, studied the holographic displays showing their expanding capabilities. "We have enough material stockpiled to build 6 more Titan-class vessels. The Outer Colonies Alliance just offered to establish a permanent supply route." Lisa Adams, now the fleet's chief systems coordinator, managed information flows that connected dozens of human settlements across the galaxy. "The communication network is growing every day. Human communities that have been isolated for decades are now part of a connected civilization again." James looked around his bridge at the men and women who had transformed themselves from scavengers into the commanders of humanity's first real fleet. Each of them had begun this journey as a refugee, an exile, or someone who had been forgotten by the greater galaxy. Now they were the leaders of a power that the alien empires watched with growing concern. Status of the patrol routes? James asked. All shipping lanes in the Outer Rim are secure, Rachel reported. 3 more pirate fleets surrendered rather than face our ships. The trade routes are busier than they have been in 50 years. A new signal appeared on Jenny's communication board, this one from the edge of human space. Captain, we are receiving a priority message from the Frontier Survey team. They have found something interesting in the Outer Veil. James smiled, remembering how this had all started with Sarah's excited voice calling him to look at something unusual in the scrap fields. What kind of something? Another derelict, sir. This one appears to be even larger than the Titan. The galaxy had spent centuries throwing away its technological achievements, viewing them as worthless once they became damaged or obsolete. But humanity had learned the true value of things that others discarded. Every piece of alien garbage had become a component in humanity's growing strength. James gave the order that would continue humanity's transformation from scavengers to galactic power. Set course for the Outer Veil. Let us see what other treasures the galaxy has thrown away.